It's not about you need to go get something more. What is happening is there's more layers that need to come off, the imprints.
When you get those intuitive nudges or those ideas and you don't follow them, they will go on to the next person and go through someone else's funnel.
You create your own reality. And I just went like something in me. It was like a birthing. I was like, yeah, I do.
Welcome back to I Can Fit That In, the show where ambition meets alignment. Today, I'm joined by guest Christy Whitman. She is a transformational leader, two-time New York Times bestselling author, intuitive energy healer, and a renowned channel for the council. With over 25 years of experience guiding personal transformation, Christy blends energy mastery, intuitive healing, and channeled wisdom to help you clear blocks and manifest a life of alignment, my word, and connection. Her teachings empower spiritual seekers, coaches, entrepreneurs, and high achievers to create lives filled with effortless abundance, authentic joy, and meaningful momentum. Christy, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here with you. Thanks, Erin. Hi, everyone.
I cannot wait to dive into this conversation. I mean, there's a few things about you and your background that I'm so drawn to because they're things that are also within me. So one, I'm a Reiki master. And so I know you know way too much about that. But I think let's actually just start with how you arrived at doing this work and a little bit about your background.
Well, really quick, I mean, I was just in my late 20s and kind of did a checklist of all the things that were supposed to make me happy, and I wasn't. And so I started searching for, I'm like, there's got to be more than this, like, started asking bigger questions. And it led me like literally sitting in a chair with a hairdresser that I just was looking at her and interacting with her. And I thought, she's so different than anybody I've met. And I often say it's like that scene in When Harry Met Sally, when she's like, I'll have what she's having. That's what I was looking for. And I was like, what do you do? And she said, I meditate. Now, this is pre-internet. This is pre like secret law of attraction stuff and, all that. And I was like, meditate. I mean, it was like a huge, I'd never known anybody to meditate. So I went to her meditation teacher who she referred me to, and I go to her house, and it's, small house, but she's got like clinky new age music going on and, angel statues and incense and candles. And this was not my normal vibe, right? I'm going in and she brings me into this room and there's like a cushion, right? And no chairs or couches or anything. So she goes, have a seat. And I'm like, I guess I'm sitting here. So all of a sudden this big fat cat named Steve comes over to me and he's like warming up against me, kind of thing. And I'm just on to Steve and I look up and this just powerful woman looks at me dead in the eyes and she goes, you create your own reality. And I just went like something in me. It was like a birthing. I was like, yeah, I do. And it was like, welcome to planet Earth. It was just this moment of like, whoa. But then my brain kicked in, kind of those moments like, I would love to do that. And then the brain goes, you can't do that. You're too old. You're too, whatever it is. But that moment of like, yes, expansion, increase, right? That's how we know we're in alignment. And so that moment of like, yes. And then my brain went, how? And Melanie looked at, she could see. And I said the same thing to her. I'm like, but how? How do we create our own reality? And she started with our thoughts and said, you're either repelling things from you or attracting things to you based on the way you think. And that moment for me, again, was one of those, the way I think, so she's like, oh, she's like new at this. So I'm going to have you go and learn basic meditation with my friend Carol. Now, Carol is a renowned like psychic, and I didn't know this, but I was just going over to learn basic meditation. And when I was there was a group of I think it was maybe 5 or 6 other people. I do remember that her beagle puppy had puppies. So there was like 6 puppies running around. It was fun. But we were doing this thing where she was having us open up our hand chakras, our healing. Everybody has them, right? That it's just, I do a healing and channeling course to teach people how to do this stuff, but everybody has them. And she opened up our healing centers. So we were doing work on each other, like practicing energy work. And this woman sat in front of me and I thought, okay, here we go. Right. And did the little opening kind of thing. And I put my hands there and this woman like whipped her head around and looked at me and she like looked like, and I'm like, what? And she goes, I feel like Christ just entered the room. And in that moment, I was like, oh, hell no. Oh, hell no.
Like, what are you talking about?
Compartmentalize. That did not just happen. I will not be struck dead because I was raised Catholic,
Mm-hmm.
It was like,
oh, I know that story all too well.
right? So I was like, I know. So it just kind of kept gnawing and leading me to different things that led me to be a coach, in which I had, been a coach for years through law of attraction coaching. And then The Secret came out and it was like, huge explosion of business and started certifying coaches in law of attraction in 2008. And so just everything kept evolving where that thing that I compartmentalized is like, let me out, let me out. So I started kind of, I'm coming out, like that whole thing of I'm also not a coach. I'm not just a coach. I'm a healer, working with energy and healing, just to kind of like people that I knew I could trust about it. And then the council, and that's a whole nother episode. That's a whole nother video conversation. But then the council started coming through me. And it just has been a wild, fun, amazing, blessed ride. I'm grateful I get to do what I do.
Well, I'll dig into the council just very briefly, but I know what you mean by that's a whole other episode. But, I appreciate your story so much. And, I absolutely agree with you that there's like this alignment that happens where when you start asking the deeper questions within yourself and you feel these sparks and this way of being lit up by new information and new people and new concepts or ideas or practices or more modalities. And you're like, I'm on to something here because this is not something I've ever known. And yet to feel so lit up by it, I have to follow that, right? We have to follow those nudges. And like for me, that happened where it was like these questions I was asking of myself as I started to really kind of reframe things in my own mind and see life in a new light or a new way. I then noticed more, right? Like life had more color and new people came into my life, which brought modalities or other practices. And for me, I stepped into Reiki in a very kind of strange way where I was in Bali and there was a Reiki healer on the trip, on the retreat.
Oh, cool.
And she said, hey, I'd love to spend 30 minutes with each of you. They were like, I think 12 women, right? And so we had a 30-minute session on like the last day. And I felt all this movement in my stomach. And afterwards, she said, what happened for you as you were lying there? And I said, well, I kept seeing these like kind of like floating, almost like angels, but they have no faces. They were just like these figures that kept floating around in what was otherwise just black and dark because my eyes were closed. And then I felt all this movement in my stomach. And she said, you had a basketball size of steel energy in your abdomen. And I was like, what? Anyways, the long and short of it is I felt totally different the next day. And there was a lot of release that happened. And from then on, I was a consumer of Reiki. And then I got to this point after a couple of years where I was doing it every 3 months or so. And I was like, I want to be able to do this on myself and on my family. So I'm not a practitioner with others. I will telepathically practice with clients here and there that I work with very closely. But other than that, it has been such a resource to understand how energy actually works, right? And we exude energy to each other. And even just in this connection we have online, we exude energy to each other. So what I'd love for you to walk us through is how can someone tell how they're absorbing energy or if their own energy might be off a little bit and how they're actually exuding it. How can they start to understand how that works or what that feels like? And I guess maybe the next step from there is what are maybe some of the tools they can use in protecting their own energy?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I love that story too, because I also had Reiki and that sort of thing. What I do is not, and I actually used to offer a certified Reiki course within my coaching academy. So very connected, love Reiki. But what I do is not Reiki, which is interesting. It's just divine opening up and pouring through me, which we all, can do that.
Yeah.
So, the biggest thing is understanding that everything is energy.
Yeah.
I mean, everything is energy. We know this now from quantum physics, science. There is one formless substance. Some
Yeah.
people call it God, others call it soul, they call it spirit, universe, whatever it is. But there is one pulsating, positive, pure potential, energetic substance that is breathing us. So it's not outside of us, it's also breathing us. And it has a consciousness as it layers itself down into the third dimensional form and comes into a human body. It thinks thoughts. It has a consciousness, right? And yet it partners with us as a human, third dimensional, free willed individual. It'll implant. My whole book, The Desire Factor, is all about how we get desires, what makes us go, and how we as the human partner with that. How you and I would partner with that. It's like you get that idea of, oh my God, that'd be so great. Oh, wow, I'd love to do that. And then you feel that expansiveness. And then the mind goes, you can't do that. Who are you to do that? You don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, you're right. I don't know how to do that. Right? But then understanding that it doesn't just end there and you don't have to infuse doubt, worry, fear into it. How would I do that? Right? It's understanding that then I'm here for it. It's a yes for me. I'm here to play. What's my responsibility in this? Right? Because if there's a formless substance that is wanting to be formed, and there cannot not be a formless substance, and we cannot not think, but what we think to that substance, about the substance, and anything under the sun of the substance, meaning money, relationships, our own bodies, our own career path, whatever it may be, whatever subject we invoke, what we think about it is literally creating an energetic vibratory reaction. This is called law of attraction. Mm-hmm. And I've been a law of attraction coach master certified law of attraction coach for 25 years. So it's like this understanding that what you give out will come back. So you asked me, how do people know? What really helped me to understand is, and this is what I was searching for back then, because I wanted, and this is like 30 something years ago. I've only been doing this, 25 years professionally, but it's like my seeking began many years ago. And it was a feeling of, I need to understand this in practical terms. And so the best I got to give is, I like to think that there's a range of vibrations, and the first range is in lack, which any vibration, emotion, any thought we're thinking that doesn't feel good is in lack, right? Separation, we could be worried, in fear, any of that reaction, fight, flight, freeze, drama triangle stuff, all that comes from lack. And then on the other side, you have this range of vibration, which is abundance, which is like, support and love and opportunities and gratefulness and, passion and purpose and feeling blessed and free and all of that, those good feelings, like just what life is all about, those moments that are just like, wow, right? That's abundance. Getting from, and nobody taught this when I first was learning this, I'm like, how do I get from there to there? Because now I understand trying to get from lack over to there is like trying to jump across the Grand Canyon. You need to hike it, or there needs to be a bridge or something, right? So when the council came in, they kind of gave that understanding of alignment is finding that middle ground, because one of the universal laws is the law of sufficiency and abundance. So it's that middle ground, it's that vibrational range of I'm okay. There's compassion there. There's soothing, peace, harmony, contentment, fulfillment, right? That's a very different vibration than being in, oh my God, what else is going to happen? And, what do I have to worry about? Just moving out of lack and into that place of noticing what is working well and appreciating and saying thank you for the things that work well. We have so many things to be blessed for, whether it's the food we ate today or, what we're going to drink, or the fact we got sleep, or we had a roof over our heads, or clothes for our bodies, that our kids are safe. There's so many things we can be grateful for. And it's not just about rattling off, I'm grateful for this, I'm grateful for this. It's about pausing in a moment and just saying, thank you. Thank you to yourself. Thank you to the formless substance, whether you call it God, whether you call it Jesus, whether you call it Mary, whether you call it Joseph, like whatever you call it. See, there's that religion coming back. Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, right? I could hear my Italian grandmother saying that. But it's like whatever we are projecting, with our minds are like light projectors, and what we focus on, we're either putting on that horror movie that we're projecting into our life, that drama, that, all that, or we're projecting delight and pleasure and love and what feels good, right? But we're the projector. The light is always there. Life is moving through us that wants more for us. So gratitude, just saying thank you, and also be in a place of thinking, how could I increase the situation? Instead of what can I take from it? What can I get from it? And that all starts with our language. So I would say your tools are watch your words. And I'm going to give you all a free gift so that you can go further with this. You can go to watchyourwords.com, and it's a 30 video program where I talk about what words not to say, why, and what to say instead. So anytime you feel like you're like, oh, I have to do this. I heard my girlfriend the other day is like, oh my God, I have to, design and get this, graduation party. And I said, no, you get to, for your amazing daughter who's smart and loves you. And she's like, wow, great reframe, and it's true. It's the energy starts with the words that we speak, right?
So true.
Yeah.
So true. Well, I love all of that so much. And what, it reminds me a little bit of, what you're talking about. I talk a lot about meditation, and I talk a lot about sort of this funnel that we all have. And it's a funnel to infinite possibility, of which you're talking about, the consciousness and kind of open source. And, some people don't understand that we actually do have access to that. And that when you get those intuitive nudges or those ideas and you don't follow them, they will go on to the next person and go through someone else's funnel, right? It's like it will keep going until someone chooses to download that and to truly bring it into form. And I know I've done that with a book. I've done that with a business, with a lot of the work that I do. And I've seen so many people do this because I work with so many different people. What would you say is maybe one of the biggest things that can pull someone either into flow or into that state of being where they start to feel like they have this expanse? They start to feel like they have this vastness that they can tap into. Is there a specific moment, or is it just being open to it, or is it just meditation? What's your thing, or how do you teach people to get to that place?
Yeah, I'd say the first thing is just knowing that you have the desire to do that, because it's the invitation. Anything that we, in partnership with this substance, with this formless substance, with this God, right, with this creator, we're co-creating with it all the time, our own unique realities. And so when we are going to, whether you call it soul, again, whatever you call it, we are going to that and creating thought. And the minute we put thought to what it is we want, need, would love, visualize, whatever it is, when we're going, oh, I need support, or I would like guidance, or I'd like wisdom, or I'd like to open my channel, or I'd like to open up my dream portal. I've done that with all those things, right? I'm ready to, because it's like what you're saying. It's like, I'm an open cup, put the ball in me, right? It's like, I'm ready to go kind of thing. Somebody else, people have asked me that when I started in 2018, full on channeling the council, a couple of people said to me, well, why you? And I'm like, I asked the very same question. And all the council said is because I do the work. I'm a vessel that continues. If something limits me, I'm in there doing that work so that I can come back into alignment. That's how I live my life, and it's like when I'm out of gratitude and when I'm in contrast, like every other human, I do the work, whether it's outside work to get someone to help me, or whether it's internal stuff that I teach and, stuff that I, do myself, whatever. Meditation is, yes, 100% right up there, because putting in an invitation, at least that's what meditation does. You're taking yourself into a period of time, whether it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 3 hours, like whatever it is that you feel is good for you. Everybody's got a different variety. I feel 15 minutes perfect, right? When you're putting yourself there, you're also inviting in that awareness of your higher self. And with that invitation, they have universal laws too. It has universal laws. It's not going to insert itself. It's attraction, and it's based on us. That's where one of those spiritual deep truths, ask and it is given, comes from, right? Great book, by the way, from Abraham Hicks, right? Great part in the Bible that ask and it shall be given. And so it's that simple. But the thing that knocks most people out, again, is the words that we say. It's the thoughts that we continue to think, and thoughts based in, well, who am I to do that? Or, oh my God, nobody's doing that. That's too scary. I don't know how to do that, right? The self-doubt, the feelings of, who am I? I'm not special. The feelings of, loneliness or not enoughness, all of that comes from the lack. But the beauty of it is that pile, like that bucket of lack, does not feel good to be in it, think about it, see somebody else going through it. It's a part of the polarity of being on the earth plane. But the cool thing is that we have now teachers like yourself and I and other coaches and healers that can help people get out of there and get back in alignment so that you can have a very different experience of life.
Right.
I mean,
yeah. It's like,
so
do you want to go through life completely disempowered and disempowering yourself? Or do you want to choose better? Right. And that's really, I think what this comes down to, you talk a lot about intuition, and intuition is so important, energy. If everything is energy, like your own voices within you are also energy. And so your words, the importance of your words, and distinguishing between what is a voice of lack or a voice of abundance, right? A voice of, intuition or of fear. And so how do you help people distinguish between those voices? And what are some of the tactics that you might share as people can start to maybe connect a little bit more deeply in their own mind, but then their own heart? And when they hear these voices and start to understand, what, one talks to me a little bit differently than the other.
Okay. So anything that's negative, berating, feels dismissive, judging, critical, any of that is not your divine self talking to you. And your soul or your divine self would not even be like, watch out, danger. It is a flow of energy. It would be more like, go this way. It's a gentle, do this instead of, like, you may be going this way and you get the guidance to go this way and you have no understanding, but you're like, yeah, I'll go there. And it turns out well, right? If you feel that nudge and you try to push against it, I at least have learned in my own life that when I'm being guided to go this way, I'm like, no, I'm going this way. It doesn't turn out well for me, right? But when I'm like, hey, I was supposed to go that way, but I guess I'm going this way now, it turns out better than I could have imagined, right? Expectations. Yeah. But the key really is, it's not about you need to go get something more, or you need to be, I don't know anyone, like you don't have to go buy anything. What is happening is there's more layers that need to come off: the imprints, the fears, the times that emotions got stuck and imprinted and didn't get released. The traumas, right? Big traumas or little traumas. All of those things, all of those imprints and traumas, those are what blocks the flow. I like to think of it as like, energy, light is a fast moving flow, but it's like those traumas are big blocks or boulders that the water has to go around or try to get over, right? But you remove the blocks, like even a belief that, I can't afford something, or a belief that I have to figure it out myself, right? Any of those, or that I'm not enough, or that I'm, going to be abandoned, or I'm not going to be loved. Any of those places within us emotionally that don't make sense logically, but emotionally we let the energy go so that the energy literally can flow through us. Because when you think about it, if I like to think of us like a pipe, right? If the light, the consciousness is coming through, and it doesn't have a lot of blockages, right? It's just, you have more direct access. So the reason I am allowed to connect with, laugh with, be present with, channel for other people, the counsel, is because of all the release that I've done from my own stuff, right? Some people might have lots of stuff. People might have a little bit of stuff. Some people might have big, huge boulder stuff. We're all different, and it's all being experienced differently through us. And that's the whole point,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny because I always say to people how yoga is actually an energetic practice. You're essentially releasing all of this energy that is stuck and stale and just needs to move. And you do that through all these twists and kind of wringing it out, but then you're also moving it with your hands. And people don't actually realize that. I'm like, it's not just exercise. It's actually far
No,
deeper than that, which is one of the
truly.
reasons I love yoga so much. And I'm not a yoga teacher, don't want to be, but it's a definite practice in my life and has been for a very long time. I'm
Can I
curious.
time you out on that
Yeah.
one for a second?
Yeah.
Because you're bringing up something, whether for me, I've done yoga and I've gotten into like a place where I love the class, and and it's just, there's something so, like, couple different places, like, really, I'm now into Pilates and I'm loving Pilates, right? So it's whether you do Pilates or whether you're into bar, or you just walk, moving your body is so essential for us to be able to be intuitive, to be able to process our emotions, to get just so many biological things happening in our bodies when we move our bodies. And it helps us focus. Like, example, Erin, you're talking about yoga. Like, when you are sitting there trying to do like an advanced move, like putting your knees on top of your elbows, or, that kind of thing, or even just doing like a downward dog or warrior, and you're in that position for a while, depending on the yoga that you do. Hot yoga, no, thank you. I don't like that. No way. That's like not for me when people do hot yoga, but, it's like you're
Yeah.
holding that position. It's causing you to focus.
Mm-hmm.
When you're walking, when you're lifting weights, when you're doing something, it's a point of focus, and it's a place where we can then, like, release, right? Think of something that we're doing in the moment, and the more things that we can do that bring us in the moment, the better we are, because all of our power is in the moment. But we get so far ahead into the future, and we get so caught up in thinking about what happened in the past, that we forget about this all important future where all of consciousness is and where our intuition is. But we have to be in
Yes.
the present to hear it.
Right. Right. And it reminds me of like Steve Jobs. Like, he obviously did a great job with this. I mean, he was so present in the moment, whether through meditation or spending time in nature and just focusing on the sounds, right? And the smells and the way that the wind hit his skin. And we've all read these stories and heard him talk about this over the years, but that is where his deepest intuitive hits came from, right? And obviously, we know what the business outcomes of those intuitive hits were for him. I think they served him very well, as whether or not they served the planet well, we can't really. that's for a totally different episode as well. But what are some examples that you've seen in the work you've done with leaders and business people over the years, where trusting their intuition and allowing their intuition to help them make decisions has led to better business outcomes?
It's funny. I am an intuitive business coach, right? So I have helped people, and I can get an intuitive kind of hit on something. And so there's a guy that I was working with. His name's Michael, and he did dog training through Caesar Milan's dog training. The guy that's a big dog guy,
Okay.
Caesar. He did what is it? Animal communication, and then meditation with dog owners. To help the dog owners calm down, because then if they calm down, the dogs will. So I was telling him, I go, you got to get in touch with him. Just volunteer and stuff like that. Now he is now all these years later, because he did that, he's now on the stage with him. He's the one that runs the whole meditation, for the whole like events that they're doing. So he's like Caesar's main guy now to do meditations and stuff, because he followed up on that intuitive hit, right? And stuff like that all the time. Like, so it might be a really weird, unique idea. Like, hey, it'd be good to create a relationship with him. And he did. And he had no idea that it would be where it led to, because his consciousness wasn't there. So that's the thing, is that there's no way all the way back then when I'm sitting in that chair getting my hair cut, asking Janine what she does, there's no way I had the awareness that this could even exist.
Right. Exactly. It's funny because to my right, I have a window line, and underneath the window line is drywall. And then there's the baseboard, before the floor. And I have white poster boards that I have kind of sectioned out into different parts of my business. And people have seen this on my social media, but I put Post-it notes of just different things that I'm manifesting. They don't exist yet. Right. Some of it is relationships with, certain companies or certain, leaders or thought leaders. And then others are projects. I have a retreat that I've been building, things like that. And all the things on there, once they happen, I cross them out or I remove the Post-it. And a lot of them, that exists because those things do not yet happen. They don't exist yet, but I'm working towards them. And this is something I'd love for you to just touch on with my listeners, because this kind of art of manifesting in life, I think it's gotten a lot of attention in a way that, some of the, I forget what they're called, not spiritual escape artists, but people who kind of take the spirituality to a level that's like not real. And they're, what snake oil type stuff. Right. Versus the reality of manifesting is actually that you believe something's possible for you and then you take action towards it. And I think writing things down is so key. If people don't write it down, and it doesn't need to be a smart, measurable goal, you don't need to have data points around it per se, but you need to write it down and look at it often and believe that it's a possibility in your life. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'd love to. That could be a whole nother episode too, because
I know.
we're manifesting all the time. We cannot not manifest, because we manifest through where we focus, and where we focus, we manifest. So like what we focus on literally that's manifesting. And so when you are deliberately now manifesting something, you're not going to just see what happens and shows up or what you're worried about, but you're going to take your focuser, your own mind, your thoughts, and put them on something that if the computer is going to have input, you're going to put the right input in, right? You're not going to leave it to what you see on social media. That's the point of visual, devices, or if someone wants to get married, have a cake topper with a man and a woman, or, whatever makes someone feel like those movies, like mind movies or vision boards or whatever it is. But yes, writing something, having something visual to connect, writing it down is essential, because it's birthing from your own finger, your own consciousness. And you have now just made it real. And when you write it down, you're writing it down as like a thought or a sentence. But what happens is we then see it as a vision. So like if I'm going to say blue car to you, do you see it as blue car written out, or do you see a blue car in your head?
Yeah, I see a blue car in my head.
That's what we normally do. We visualize what we want to see, so we have to understand that writing it down helps us specify. It it's like the first wave of making it a focus point, right? Because then our focus is there, all the energy, what we focus to the formless substance. There's potential and possibility. When we say, ooh, I choose this, right? Now it's like all the other options go away, and now we're focused on that. As long as we're not going, I want this, but I want this. I hope that doesn't happen. I want this. Oh, I'm so scared that, because now you're evoking two different pictures, two different energy connector points. You had said something earlier in this interview that, yes, we are point A. Think of yourself as point A, and there's always going to be something that's a bouncing point to point B, whether it's someone in a conversation, whether it's me totally by myself thinking about money. Money is the point B. How I think about money, if I put positivity and gratitude, and it sounds funny, but love and expansiveness, and the feeling of flow and increase, that's going to be my experience with money, because I'm the initiator, I'm the chooser of what energy is going out to the formless substance. So if I'm saying I have plenty of money and I'm, wealthy, I'm prosperous, I'm abundant, and I'm seeing that, and that's what I'm projecting, that's what comes back in reality. But there's a lag time, and it's in that lag time where people are like, well, I want that, but it hasn't manifested. So, couple words to invoke, right? It hasn't manifested yet. Because when we say, well, that hasn't manifested, we start to evoke doubt and, oh my God, maybe it won't. And I'm going to look silly. And oh my God, I'm going to be so disappointed. And I don't think I can handle that. And this whole downward spiral, right? And then we go into manifesting what we do not want, because that's where our focus is. So to be able to align ourselves with compassion without judgment, because that's how our intuition talks to us, is through compassion and soothing and without judgment and criticism, right? That light, that soothing, that kind of like a reset. Okay, now what do I want?
Right.
Why do I want it? How do I want to feel? Focusing on that.
Yeah.
Right? Projecting again and refocusing that whatever we're projecting to, so
100%. Yeah. And I mean, energy flows where your focus grows. So where do you want to put your focus? That's what this reminds me of so much. Such a awesome conversation, Christy. And I know we could talk for hours. There's so much to it, and I'll definitely have to have you back on the show at some point to dive a little bit deeper. In the meantime, can you tell everyone where it is that they can find you?
Absolutely. So yeah, go to watchyourwords.com. That'll give you that program. It's a free program. You don't have to put a credit card or anything like that. You just put in your name and your email, and it's going to give you all the videos that tell you what not to say, why, which is really important, and what to say instead, right? It's like, okay, I understand I shouldn't say shouldn't and what that does, but then how do I reframe it and what do I say it? So a lot of the words that are in our vocabulary come from the lack bucket. So when you stop saying the words that come from there, you stop having the thoughts that come from there. So watchyourwords.com. You, of course, can go to christywhitman.com, and I'm on social, Christy Whitman Official on Instagram.
Awesome. And we will include all of that in the show notes for everybody. Christy, thank you so much for your time and the very intentional conversation on a deep level. I think it's eye-opening for many of my listeners, right? Because it's not their everyday life. So you bring a very grounded approach to this, and I appreciate that.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And everyone, you know what to do. Please like, share, subscribe, and get this to more and more people who will benefit from it. And until next time, be well.